Hi guys, it's Michelle, and today's video is going to be a deep dive onto the dark side of Nickelodeon. We've talked a lot about Nickelodeon over the years, and I kind of just wanted to gather all the information that I have collected over time and kind of put it into a nice one package, like one video just talking about some of the dark shit that goes on with probably your favorite childhood network. If you were real. I don't know. I can't decide if I was a Disney kid or a Nickelodeon kid. I honestly loved both. But Dan Schneider's shows, I'm not gonna lie, did something to me. Like, for sure, that man may be one of the worst people to ever exist, but his shows slapped. Like, you can't even lie. You can't even say it's not. It's true. But this is going to go back before Dan Schneider was a part of Nickelodeon. We're just going to go through a deep dive and just kind of have like a comprehensive exploration of the network itself and all of the dark shit that goes on in it. So without further ado, let's get into it. So Nickelodeon is of course a children's network that has been associated with vibrant, youthful content for decades, but behind that colorful youthful facade, we are starting to learn that there is a very dark underbelly of lies, abuse, allegations of exploitation, toxic work environments, and just overall some dark shit that you wouldn't expect to happen at a network that is supposed to be safe for children. In 1977, Nickelodeon was founded and was a cable channel tailored to children, and by the early 1980s, Nickelodeon was making its own content, and at the beginning it was a bunch of game shows and sketch comedy series, which is kind of what we know it to be today. At least, like, well, I actually don't know what's on Nickelodeon anymore, but that's like what it was when we were growing up. As the decades progressed, Nickelodeon has implemented a bunch of different animated shows, sitcoms, live action series, and ultimately it solidified its position as the leading force in children's entertainment. Again, up there with Disney, which has its own dark shit. We have done a Dark Side of Disney expose video. I did that a couple months ago, so you can watch that if you would like. So Nickelodeon again started popping off in the 80s, but the 1990s to early 2000s was when Nickelodeon really shined. And I will say a lot of that success is due to a man named Dan Schneider. Dan Schneider is a former actor himself. He was on the sitcom Head of the Class, but he began his behind-the-scenes career at Nickelodeon in the 1990s, and over the next 2 decades he went on to produce some of the most incredible TV shows of our childhood that I'm sure you all loved, and it sucks now that they're all ruined because of what kind of person Dan is. But some of the shows include All That, Kenan and Kel, The Amanda Show, Zoey 101, Victorious, iCarly. Honestly, the list is endless. Drake and Josh, hello. So many good shows. His power and influence within Nickelodeon was just completely unmatched. Like, honestly, he was the top tier. Everybody knew it. And it's honestly been pointed out to us over the recent years that this man's power trip was not only affecting the people he was working with, like the adults he was working with, but also the children. There have been many children who have come out since working with Dan Schneider claiming that their time on Dan Schneider's sets was just traumatizing. One of the first people to really speak out about this was Alexa Nicholas, who is recognized for her role as Nicole on Zoey 101. Alexa really pointed out some of the inappropriate behavior that she had experienced on set of Zoey 101, directly correlating and from Dan Schneider. So Alexa experienced a lot of stuff during her time on the set of Zoey 101. She not only had to deal with Dan's inappropriate behavior, but she also was getting bullied by some of the main cast, Jamie Lynn Spears and Victoria Justice. And Alexa claims that like she just was not in a safe working environment. She was 13 years old at the time, and she was having to wear super short mini skirts, bathing suits, and all of it just made her really uncomfortable. And honestly, she recounts a lot of children who were also working on the show being super affectionate with Dan. Like, they would sit on his lap, and it was just strange. And apparently also in any costume fitting, he would keep the Polaroids of the pictures that they took, which again is just weird because like why are you having a like Polaroid of 13-year-olds like in their bathing suits? Like, I don't feel like he needs that for the sake of the show, but I don't know. Alexa also has spoken out about how when she was experiencing bullying with Jamie Lynn Spears, actually Jamie Lynn Spears had requested Alexa to come into the trailer one day, and they had one of the adults working on set bring Alexa from her trailer to Jamie Lynn's trailer. And Alexa was kind of excited. She thought maybe Jamie Lynn wanted to apologize or make amends and just be friends. Like, they're these 13-year-olds on a show doing their dream job. Like, there's no reason why they should hate each other. But when she got into the trailer, Jamie Lynn ran to the back of the trailer, and out comes Britney Spears, who is Jamie Lynn Spears' older sister that I'm sure you know. But imagine this is the early 2000s. Your number one, like, pop star of the time is Britney Spears. And imagine as a child, the biggest pop star coming to you and screaming at you, because that is what Britney Spears did. Now, Britney has apologized to Alexa directly for this behavior, but nonetheless, when this happened, which the fact that it did happen is kind of insane to me, Alexa literally like threw up with how anxious she was and how scared and just terrified that whole confrontation made her, which, again, fair. Like, I feel like that would scare the shit out of me. I would like actually throw up too. And when she went back to her trailer, being basically inconsolably crying, her mom was like, what the hell happened? Like, what the fuck? Her mom went to Dan, and Dan basically said, this isn't Nicole 101. Like, nobody cares. Do your job, which is a crazy work environment to have for a 13-year-old. So Alexa Nicholas has been speaking out against Dan Schneider for honestly years now. And now there have been recent documentaries like Quiet on Set that has corroborated everything that Alexa had been saying for years. The real shocking aspect of Quiet on Set was definitely the case of Drake Bell and Brian Peck. Basically, a man named Brian Peck who worked at Nickelodeon. He was a dialogue coach. He worked very closely with a bunch of children on set. He was the pickle guy and all that. Like, this man was always on the set of Dan Schneider shows. He was accused of essaying a child, and this case went to court. He was convicted. The whole thing happened in 2004, but nobody knew at the time who the child was that was abused by Brian Peck. But then Quiet on Set came out, and that is where Drake Bell came forward and admitted that he was the one who was abused.
It wasn't dealing with anybody on the shows or anything, right?
It was a child actor.
On one of our shows?
Yes.
Like, Brian Peck was just basically disgusting and obsessed with Drake. He would somehow coerce Drake's parents into letting him have like sleepovers with him and all this just weird shit. And he was just really disgusting, and he befriended Drake and then began abusing him, which is just horrifying. Drake was, I think, like 14 at the time. And this man was literally convicted of this, and I just want to say, this is a big fuck you to Disney for that. Disney went ahead and then hired him to be a dialogue coach on the set of Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, which is chronically insane. Like, I cannot believe they did that. I also think it's kind of important to talk about Charlie Sheen here, because Charlie Sheen, great friend of Brian Peck, and also defended him in this case against Drake Bell. And I just think that's fucking weird, because also after all of this, he was still working on sets with children, which is beyond insane to me. That I don't like, how can a convicted offender be allowed to work on television sets at all, but with children especially? That's insane. And again, this man was a good friend of Dan Schneider. I will say Dan has obviously spoken out against him, and Drake himself actually claimed that Dan was very helpful in this situation. So as much as Dan has been accused of things on his own, I obviously wouldn't blame him for what happened to Drake with Brian Peck. Also, not to be confused, Brian Peck and Josh Peck are not related. I know it's like kind of weird that they have the same last name and we're working on the same show, but not related. Speaking of Dan having his own rumors and allegations against him, Jamie Lynn Spears is a big name that comes up over and over again when we talk about this theory. There is a very weird and dark fucking theory that Jamie Lynn Spears' baby, who she was pregnant with at 16 years old, is actually Dan Schneider's baby, like that he fathered Jamie Lynn's baby. I hate to even think that this is true. I just choose to like not believe it. But honestly, a 2007 blind item was posted by the reputable Hollywood defense attorney behind Crazy Days and Nights, and these fueled the rumors even more. And again, this was in 2007 that this was posted. A lot of people point to the fact that I guess Jamie Lynn's daughter does not look like his alleged father Casey, and that she actually looks a lot more like Dan Schneider. I don't know. I will say this blind item was like very specific in its tone. It was very much like, this is what's going to happen. Jamie Lynn Spears is going to come up with this man who is Casey, who has been on and off boyfriend, and say that he's the father of the child, so that it doesn't like obviously strike a lot of controversy around Dan being the actual father. I don't know if I think that this is true, but it's a pretty fucking insane rumor to have happened. And honestly, what's weird to me about it is that that came out in 2007. This was before all of the Dan Schneider allegations had even slightly amended at that point. So it's just strange to me that that was a thing that people were saying from the beginning. And like I said, I don't know if I believe it, and I really hope that that's not true, because if that were true, that's absolutely vile. But a lot of people think that Jamie Lynn's parents were paid a significant amount of money from Dan Schneider to keep this secret quiet, and I don't know. I guess I'll let you guys determine what you think on that. Another person that Dan has been accused of having inappropriate behavior with is Amanda Bynes. And I think there's honestly a lot to say when it comes to Amanda Bynes, because we've seen her grow over the years from a young child to a young actor, and she seemed like she had her whole life ahead of her, but then everything just kind of came crashing down, and a lot of people blame Dan for that. So Amanda Bynes was incredibly close with Dan Schneider over her formative childhood years. He was with her through a lot of stuff, like through more projects than you would even think. Obviously from all that and the Amanda Show, but it moved on even further throughout her adulthood career in What I Like About You. He was a producer on that show, and also Easy A. And so Dan really never got his hooks out of Amanda. But apparently Amanda has been making some concerning allegations against Dan, but it's alleged whether or not it's actually her, because it is a fake Twitter that no one's really sure if it's actually Amanda or not. But she posted a picture of her ID, which I don't even know how else she would have access to that. But then the official Amanda Bynes account was saying that this was not Amanda, but then the fake Amanda Bynes account was saying that the official Amanda Bynes account was actually just her parents. And I don't know. So take this with a grain of salt, because no one knows for sure if it's actually Amanda who posted these things. But this account popped off in 2017, and it was at Persian LA 27. And like I said, this person was claiming to be Amanda Bynes. She tweeted, quote, "There are many predators in Hollywood. Some of the rumors are true, some of the rumors are false. One man in particular took hundreds of photos of my feet. I was only 13, and one of the main reasons why I will never be able to get pregnant. Can you imagine having an abortion at 13 because your boss impregnated you? Committed because your father touched you?" And then she said, "Harvey Weinstein, didn't you mean Dan Schneider?" No. Oh, okay. But again, the official Amanda Bynes Twitter account tweeted that that wasn't her, but then the Persian LA account said that my parents are the ones who are tweeting on at Amanda Bynes, deleting this account. Please pray for my freedom and chance to have control over my finances. I don't know. I really want to know if you guys think that this is Amanda Bynes or not, because I don't know. I personally kind of think it could be true. Like, I don't know if what she's saying is true. I don't know anything. But I will say Dan and Amanda's relationship has always been super strange to me. But not only that, it's kind of scrubbed from the internet in a weird way, because you can still find videos and stuff like that of Dan and Amanda, but there are zero pictures of them together whatsoever, which makes no sense to me and makes me 100% believe that they were erased from the memories. I don't know why, like, he wanted them erased. Obviously, I think that's kind of suspicious in itself. But that you cannot find pictures of Amanda Bynes and Dan Schneider, which is insane, because again, he basically like raised her. So it's just scary to think that this abuse could have been happening just under our noses. Obviously, Amanda Bynes has been going through a lot now. She was in a conservatorship. She just has been seen as like not well for kind of some time. And I do think that it is important to note that she probably went through a lot of childhood trauma. And at 16 years old, she actually wanted to be emancipated and wanted to live with Dan Schneider and his wife, Lisa. And I don't know. I mean, like, whose idea do you think that was? Do you think that was the 16-year-old's idea? Or do you think that was Dan's idea? And it just was weird to me how involved he was within her life. And I just don't trust it, especially now how she is. Dan also would allegedly, according to people on set of The Amanda Show, treat Amanda like she was his girlfriend. Like, he would go behind her and like hug her from behind and just be really fucking creepy with her, which is obviously weird considering she was like 13 years old at the time. I do truly think that Amanda's parents really did not protect her from anything that was going on, and that's fucking really scary, to be honest. But I just do think that there was some uncomfortable affection between Amanda and Dan that we have seen, and it does make you wonder if there's anything like that we haven't seen behind closed doors that happened. And according to Amanda and according to a couple blind items, that's true. She apparently wrote, after the 2018 allegations of Dan Schneider being a creep overall began to come up, she apparently wrote this blind item saying, quote, "Thank you for all of your ongoing support. I don't know how any of these men sleep at night, but if there's one thing that I do know, it's that what's done in the dark always comes to light. XOXO." And if you look, she capitalized certain words here, and if you spell out all the capitalizations, it spells out Dan did it. Then she goes on to say, "Sorry, I thought that was clever. Unfortunately, I will obviously not be making any comments whatsoever for obvious reasons. And unfortunately, I feel as though the only way that legitimate stories can make headlines regarding the producer is if others publicly speak on his behavior. The producer was truly like a second father to me, but things changed. After the second incident, I don't know if I will ever be able to have children or have the family of my dreams. People have been picking the scab for years. I just won't be the one who finally rips it off." And again, lots of people are saying that that is Amanda Bynes on Dan Schneider. I don't know. Like, I don't know. I do say typically where there's smoke, there's fire. There is some truth to a lot of things that happen, but I wouldn't say for sure that that is Amanda Bynes and that she is actually saying that stuff about Dan. But I will also would never discredit it. I don't know. But I want to hear your guys' thoughts. Another person who spoke out against Dan and honestly really, really got people talking about it was Jennette McCurdy. Jennette McCurdy, famously on iCarly, she wrote a book called I'm Glad My Mom Died, and this book was so eye-opening to the life that these kids experienced on Nickelodeon, and it is fucking dark. So Jennette McCurdy's book at least really opened my eyes personally, because I always wanted to be on a Dan Schneider show. I will say, like, obviously looking back on it, like, obviously the grass is greener on the other side, whatever, but I always wanted to be an actor as a kid. I thought that this would be so much fun. I loved every single show this man put out, and I wanted to be on his show, like, so bad. I actually literally entered a contest to be on his show. Obviously didn't win, but thankfully. It's just strange to me that something that sounded like a dream was actually such a fucking nightmare for the people who were working with him. And Jennette McCurdy was someone who really painted that picture for all of us to see what was truly going on behind closed doors. And it's pretty fucking dark. So Dan has obviously been accused of being kind of a creep over the years, having a foot fetish, making weird jokes in his television shows. For sure, he has made so many inappropriate jokes. It's disturbing.
So which one of us is the flattest?
My throat is my instrument. I'm a throat player.
Doesn't count.
And it sounds kind of gross. Come on! Give up the juice!
But Jennette really details how it was actually like to work with the man, and that he had a crazy temper, would yell at children, make them feel replaceable, but then also make them feel like they were special and his favorite actor, and would try to take them under his wing, but then abandon them when someone else new came along. I don't know, and it just sounds pretty fucking insane. Some of the stuff that Jennette detailed that really struck a chord with me personally is that he let the kids drink alcohol, which is so nuts to me. He even allegedly said, like, oh, like, why aren't you drinking like more like the Victorious kids, like the iCarly kids are so lame and boring, like you guys should drink more and have more fun, like be more loose and chill. And these kids are like 18 and 19 years old at the time. Like, that's fucking weird. Also, another red flag, in my opinion, I hate when any manager or person in power does this, is that Jennette claims that Dan would talk very poorly about his other clients. And I just think that's a character flaw. Like, that's a very big red flag in my opinion, because if I know a manager and I hear them talking shit about their other clients, I'm like, what are you saying about me? Like, you know, that's just like, that's not good. Jennette was also offered $300,000 of hush money to never speak about Dan. And that was like how she ended her time on Sam and Cat, was them being like, but here, will you take this $300,000 to never speak on Dan? And obviously she didn't take it, but it's pretty fucking insane to me that they were trying to hide this verbal abuse and just demeaning undertones that this man had towards children. Like, that's insane. And not only did he have this energy towards children, but he had this energy towards other people who were working on his shows, the adults on set. I think hearing from the writers, Christy Stratton and Jenny Kiljan, talking about their experience in working in the writer's room on The Amanda Show just shows the sexism that they experienced is insane. Like, I just feel like they absolutely endured not only Dan underpaying them, but he always created such a misogynistic work environment. Like, he would ask the female workers in the room to massage him, and he would say things like, can you please give me a massage? I'll put one of your sketches in the show, which is obviously just fucking creepy and weird as hell. Dan would often present this behavior as a joke, but everyone who was on the set of his shows knew that the undertones of it were not to be fucked with. Like, it wasn't funny. It was serious, and he was very, very serious, and if you disagreed with him, that would result in you getting fired. So to me, what was crazy was learning that Dan Schneider's kind of environment was not only toxic to the children working on the sets, but also the other adults. And hearing them talk about some of his behavior is just, it kind of pieces everything together for me and shows what this must have actually been like to be a part of as a kid. And it wasn't a dream job at all, because, like, yes, you were doing what you loved to do, but in those conditions, is it really worth it? And I think Jennette McCurdy was one of the first people to be like, no, like, it's not. And obviously Jennette went through a lot of trauma and abuse from her own mother as well, and I think that ties into her experience as a whole. But I will say, I think Dan's contribution to a toxic set environment is just unmatched. Like, he clearly made it a very dangerous working environment for not only children, but the adults as well, especially women. So amid all of these allegations, Dan was forced to step down from Nickelodeon in 2018. But for a while, he was actually still playing a significant role at Nickelodeon. He just wasn't allowed to, like, work with the children directly, which again is strange. The network kind of made it seem like this decision was mutual, but it's widely believed that Dan's controversial reputation played a pretty significant role. After the Quiet on Set documentary was released earlier this year, Dan actually went on Boogie's YouTube channel, who played Tebow on iCarly, to kind of defend his honor or whatever. It made him look very heartless in a lot of ways, in my opinion. He felt manipulative because he said he would just be like, you know what it was like on my sets. We all had fun. If anything made anyone uncomfortable, they could have told me and we would have changed that. But, like, critically, when you look at it, these people were scared to talk about being uncomfortable to Dan because he made that environment uncomfortable. He made the environment the way that it was. And he made it so if you didn't want to do something on the show or in the writer's room, wherever you were working on a Dan Schneider set, that decision directly reflected your job, and your job was at jeopardy if you didn't do what he said. So, like, yes, he wouldn't force people to do anything technically. That's what he can say, because he's like, well, I didn't force you, I didn't make you do it. But he also made an environment where not only the children felt uncomfortable, but the adults also felt uncomfortable telling this man no. And that's toxic in itself. So I don't know. I just think that the entire conversation around Nickelodeon is such an important one to have, because there is so much dark history, and I just think it serves as a cautionary tale for the entertainment industry as a whole, because we have children working in these environments that are unsafe, and it's taking a mental toll on them. We have seen it happen live. We've seen it happen with the Lindsay Lohan, Amanda Bynes, Macaulay Culkin. Like, a lot of people are always like, well, child stars like have like mental breakdowns. Why do you think they are having those breakdowns? Is because the environment that they are being thrown into is unsafe. They are dealing with trauma. And honestly, like, I could do an entire dark side of Hollywood video as a whole, because obviously there's kind of a lot of shit with like the whole P. Diddy thing, and I don't know, there's just so much dark shit. But to me, this is Nickelodeon, a place where you would think would be safe for children to work in a happy, healthy environment, and that just was absolutely not the case, and that is fucking scary. That is very scary. And I just think it should be required that children have access to therapists on set. That should be a thing. And I just think that these children need to be able to feel comfortable to say that they're uncomfortable. And clearly Dan Schneider did not make that feel like that kind of environment for them. And I just think that sucks. And it, again, takes away from his shows. It does. His shows were great. They were funny and whatever, but they also were met with a lot of jokes that as a child we didn't understand were so dirty and raunchy and weird to be putting on a children's network and to be making children say. So overall, it just kind of ruins the entire Nickelodeon experience, and it's disturbing. But anyway, that is it for today's video. If you guys liked it, please give it a big thumbs up. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think of the dark side of Nickelodeon. If you feel like I missed anything, let me know. I kind of feel like I tried to encapsulate it all, but there's kind of a lot of dark shit, not gonna lie. But anyway, that is it. Make sure you follow me on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram, and subscribe for new videos every week, and I'll see you guys later. Bye!